Welcome back to Scott Family Homestead. This is part 2 of our Building a Farm series, so if you missed part 1, I will link that in the description. You can go check that out first. That details our entire first year on our farm, and now we're rolling into 2024, which was our second year building this farm. By January, we had kind of hit our stride. We were almost a year in. We had a general routine for all of our animals, and January proved to be a very kind month to us. It was warm, very little snow. By the end of the month, it had cooled down quite a bit. The cows and the pigs were doing great. The chickens were starting to lay again by the end of the month, and we were really hitting our maintenance mode. Everything was really about keeping everybody fed, watered, and warm. We had to make some changes to our watering systems. We were learning more every single day about having a farm and working through the winter. Prior to this, we had only had chickens through the winter. So a lot of this was new to us, and it was all going really well. In fact, we were expecting piglets, and Mama was looking closer every day. It is a beautiful sunny day here, which is wild for February in Wisconsin. And we're pretty lucky because it looks like Babette is getting really close to farrowing. She is our gilt, so this is her first time having piglets. We're trying to keep a really close eye on her, and she is just having a lazy day. Her milk seems to be coming in. We are going to move her into the barn just in case she is due to farrow in the next few days. We got Babette settled into the barn with lots of fluffy hay and prepared for our very first farrowing. We were really nervous about this. We didn't know how she was going to do with maternal instincts, with labor, but we were very, very excited. We put a camera up and we were watching her around the clock. 3 days later, she had her nest built, big and fluffy. She started breathing hard, and she started giving birth to her 11 piglets. Babette did great. She gave us 6 females and 5 males. She handled labor perfectly. She really didn't need any help, but we were hovering like nervous first-time parents. She was very careful with the piglets. She had very good protective instincts, but she was still kind when we were around. She was a little bit anxious if any of the pigs were squealing, but she still knew that we were her people, and she was gentle with us as well. She really was the perfect first-time mama. Being early February, it was very cold, and our number one problem was keeping these piglets warm. So we ended up putting in a barrel with a heat lamp run through the top, and it stays really nice and warm in there. And the little piggies have found out when they're done nursing, they can go in there and it stays nice and warm. The barrel was the perfect fix for this, and you want to be really sure that you have it ratchet strapped to something so that it can't tip and she can't get in there. And then also the creep is also really important to holding this whole thing together. And they have it figured out, and that is where they are sleeping when they're not nursing. And I think it's going to be a really great solution. With that, we had all kinds of new life on the farm, and we also welcomed 2 steers in early March. This meant we had to pick a new naming theme for the year, and we chose trees. So we welcomed Oakley and Alder, our 2 steers who would feed us over the next 2 years and provide beef for our customers. We were in the process of getting licensed so that we could sell cuts of meat direct to consumers, which was the next big step in growing our business. By March, spring had arrived. The piglets were growing great. We had little baby chicks hatching, and it was nearly time to start weaning both our Jersey calf and our piglets. It is time to get these guys out on pasture and get them weaned from their mama. And then we have one that mama kind of kicked out. I'm not really sure why, but he was not gaining weight like the others, and we separated him out so that we could get him some extra feed and some milk, some cow's milk, and he's growing really good and doing fine. Brian tried to reintroduce him this morning, and she actually started biting at him and would not let him nurse. So he is separated, and they should be all ready to be weaned. More than ready to be weaned. It was April, and we were in a great routine. But one night, Ryan and I went to bed, and when we woke up in the morning, everything had changed. Are you okay?
No.
Can you just say a sentence for me? Any sentence at all?
I walked the rope. It's not important now.
Ryan, did you hit your head yesterday?
No.
Can you say a sentence?
I can, but I need like some words. In my snowbank, there's index cards. Like a lot of them.
You're scaring me. We need an ambulance. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't want to go.
Those of you who have followed us for a while may have noticed that we have not been on social media and YouTube for a little while, and that is because about a month ago, Ryan actually woke up one morning talking a whole lot of nonsense, laughing a lot. We were very confused that he had had a stroke.
Yeah, it was really kind of strange because like you wake up and like my brain was working fine. I was like able to see the experiences and like I knew what I wanted to say, but when I went to actually say something, it like in my head made sense, and then when it came out it was like completely wrong, and it made me laugh because I thought it was funny. I was like, why am I even saying this stuff? And I would laugh and I felt a little bit off balance, and I was like, whatever, like this is just gonna like go away. It's not a big deal. And then Christine eventually was like, hey, what are our kids' names? And the two oldest I got right, and then the two youngest I could not even come up with anything that was close to their name. So
That's when we realized it was a real problem. Got to the ER where they diagnosed him with a stroke. They do further testing from there, and what they actually found, they did an echocardiogram and found that he has a hole in his heart that allowed a blood clot to transfer through his heart and go straight to his brain. So we're in the process of navigating the health system and trying to get that taken care of. And in the meantime, Ryan is on lifting restrictions, weight restrictions, and can't lift bags of feed, hay bales, a lot of the things that we've come to rely on him for. And so that has really thrown us into a whole new realm here. From what we know right now, it's going to be about July before he can get back to things, and we're just playing it by ear from there. We had already made spring plans. We had hatched out chicks, our Cornish cross meat birds had arrived, a greenhouse was in pieces in the garage ready to be put together, and the farm just kept on moving. One thing is for sure, a farm needs you every single day, even the hardest ones. So we continued to show up, did the work, and tried to stay on track. Every single day, the hogs get 50 pounds of feed. So we lost one of our pigs. He was really declining. We tried to do a bunch of different things. We brought in a vet on it, treated him with kind of a last-ditch effort, and he got better. And then one day we went in there and he had passed away overnight. I don't really know. I think he probably had something going on internally. He fell way behind on growth, and so we ended up losing him. We had a lot of daily tasks to get through, but we also had a lot of things to look forward to. We are on calf watch. Suki could be due any day now based on when she was put in with our Highland bull. Our cattle herd was growing and we were expecting babies this year, which was very exciting, but it was still a lot of work. We only had one of our fields fenced, which meant moving fencing every single day, but we couldn't add any large projects to our list because we already had one ready to go, and that was getting the garden in place and putting up our high tunnel. This is the glacier style greenhouse. It comes to a peak up there from Grower's Solution. It is 48 feet long and 30 feet wide, and it is going to be a huge growing space for all of my tomatoes and peppers, things that just don't grow quite as well here in northern Wisconsin. This is our big weekend project. This is the one we need help with, so we kind of have to wait until people are available. Ryan, like I said earlier, can't lift anything heavy. And this is just a huge project, and I can't do it on my own, obviously. So this is the one that we are getting help with. Whenever people have time to offer a little bit of their time and energy. So I'm extremely grateful for every single person that has helped us while Ryan has been out of commission. It's been a huge change, a huge adjustment. We talked about this yesterday, Ryan and I, and our conclusion was just everything is hard. Right now, everything is hard. Thankfully, we still had a contract for our extra 40 acres, and somebody was making hay on that for us for the year. But we quickly realized that we were going to need equipment of our own, even if we weren't making hay, in order to move things around the farm and be able to get things done, especially with Ryan on lifting restrictions. With the money from the sale of our first homestead, we were able to purchase a used tractor that was big enough for us to eventually take over making hay. Thankfully, Ryan was still able to work his full-time job while he awaited heart surgery, which was a blessing to our family because the farm was still operating at a substantial loss for the second year in a row. We had more products to sell to our customers, and we were growing more food than ever, but there was a lot of equipment and infrastructure growth that was happening that cost a lot of money. Overall, things were going really well. Everything was growing, everything was on track, and we were able to keep the farm afloat. At the end of May, Suki finally had her baby, a little Highland lowline cross that we named Magnolia and nicknamed Maggie. She was just the cutest little calf I've ever seen, so fluffy and so sweet, and we were so happy to have her on our farm. As summer hit, we had a very good daily routine down, and it was time to start working on some of the bigger projects. We had so many pigs, and in the space they were in, it was getting extremely muddy. So it became time that we needed to make them a new pasture, which included putting up fencing. I had never done fencing before, but I learned pretty quickly how to use a T-post pounder, and I gave them a nice big pig pen full of tall grass for them to finish out their growth. As the pigs got settled into their new pasture, it was time to move on and work on a new fence for the cows. This fence was a much larger project, but I had gotten the hang of putting in fencing, was able to give them a much bigger pasture where they could grow, and Maggie was already growing so much. Ryan was finally able to get his heart surgery after quite a battle proving to the insurance company that it was necessary. He was finally able to get back to work just in time for our harvest to start rolling in. Okay, I got a pretty good box of goodies out of there. Our Jersey cow gave birth to a little Highland Jersey mix that we named Douglas, and we were back in milk. We also welcomed Babette's fall litter of piglets, and she gave us 14 little baby piglets in September. Mama just delivered number 14 and her placenta, so she is done. She only has 14 teats and one of them is damaged, so we're glad there's not more. That's a lot of piglets for her. Just a healthy mama and healthy babies so far, and we're hoping it stays that way. As we spent more time in the barn, it became apparent that we were going to have to do some work and some cleanup before winter. Between what the previous owners had left in the barn and what we had brought from our old homestead, we were overwhelmed with stuff. The top and the bottom parts of our barn were completely filled, and it was time to do some major cleanup. We needed to decide what was useful and what was garbage. We got to work cleaning up all of the trash, and we saved anything that was cool or antique or might be useful later on. We filled 2 dumpsters full of garbage from this barn. We still have a ways to go in here, but check this out. The barn looked great, but we still had a major problem. But then we get into the problem part of the barn, which is the stone, the field stone, that is on the side where we're having water drainage issues. And while it looks fine right now, in the springtime when all the snow melts, this is a water feature. It is a waterfall. It comes pouring in here and fills all the gutters and freezes up in here. And if we get a really heavy rain, same thing. So we have water just running down this wall if there's a lot of water outside. You can see right out the top here, it is missing stones, and it all needs to be repointed as well. This was too big of a project to complete this year, but we took care of the worst parts and rebuilt the walls in places that really needed it so that we could get through the winter and hopefully the snow melt in the spring without it destroying more of the wall. The barn project had to be put on hold because we had 9 pigs, a steer, and about 100 chickens ready to go to the butcher. We were outsourcing all of our butchering this year, including the chickens, simply because we did not have the time. Savvy, you feeding those piggies? We bought 4 new freezers, had them inspected, and we were ready to sell direct to consumer. We filled the freezers fast. Between the steer, the remaining 7 pigs that had not been sold as shares, and a whole lot of chicken, which filled all 4 freezers to the brim. Thankfully, even without attending markets, we were selling direct from the farm and quickly realized we were not going to have enough beef to make it through a year. 1 steer just wasn't going to do it. It was time to expand the herd. As you can probably tell, we're expanding our beef herd, and we got these 2 mamas. They are low-line Angus, which is kind of like a mini Angus. We do a lot of mini cows here, not true like genetically mini cows. We just like the smaller cows, and they breed well to our Highland. So we've got a couple new low lines. If you know our cow Suki, she is also a low-line Angus. And so we're gonna have all these little Angus mamas. We did get new shelters this week, so that was exciting. And now we're able to keep cows out here for the winter. We had moved everybody off of this pasture, assuming that we would just keep everybody close to the house. But now we got these 2 new ones. We've got them out here kind of to quarantine, make sure everybody's good before we introduce them to anybody else. Hazel and Juniper were settling in and bred for spring calves. Just when we thought we were done expanding for the year, we were hit with a complete surprise. Martha had given us a tiny surprise calf, and we didn't even know that she was bred. Martha was still really young, but she was a cow that broke fences often. Cedar, the little bull calf, was born on an extremely cold day, and we were lucky that our neighbors had found him when they did. We had brought him inside and warmed him up, but he was not doing well, and he was not eating on his own. The vet told us that Cedar was probably a dummy calf. He didn't know how to eat, and he probably had something going on internally that was stopping him from surviving on his own. But the vet gave us a crash course in tube feeding a calf, and we took it hour by hour. We had colostrum saved up from our dairy cow, so we started by giving milk, we added in electrolytes, and eventually we tried to get him back on his mama. It was an around-the-clock fight, and we didn't get any sleep in days. But we stayed on top of it, we fought as hard as we could, and by some miracle, he not only made it, but he also was nursing from his mama. We gained so much knowledge and experience from Cedar and completely fell in love. Things were going well, the harvest was abundant, we were filling our pantry shelves with so much meat and produce, but the year was not done testing us yet. December's weather was unkind. It was a rainy, slippery, muddy mess. But we did lose our family milk cow, Lorelei. We were having some weird weather patterns where it was freezing at night and then getting really muddy during the day. And she ended up slipping where the mud kind of met the ice. And she went down, and we called a vet. But before the vet could even get here, she had passed. So when we talked to the vet, he said she probably severed something when she fell. It's with a cow like Lorelei that really meant a lot to our family. That was a huge hit to us, and we took it really, really hard. Within a week of losing Lorelei, we also lost our sweet cedar. We found him in the field down, and he had bloat really bad. He had what's called frothy bloat, which is harder to fix than just a gassy, airy bloat. And we called the vet immediately and we said, we need help with this. And they couldn't come out right away, and we were super anxious about it. But the vet came out, and here Cedar was up and walking around. He was doing better, still bloated. So the vet did another bloat treatment on him and drained air and some of that frothiness from him 2 different ways. And he said if he makes it through the night, he might be okay, but this is a really tough one to beat. And we checked on him through the night, made sure he was on the proper side, things like that. But when we came out in the morning, he was snuggled up to his mama and he had passed. It's one of those moments where you sit and you think, why am I doing this? Like, why are we going through this if we have to experience this kind of loss? I loved this little cow, and that broke my heart. So that was a huge loss after losing Lorelei, all within a week. The losses like this are going to happen. I know that. I've always known that, but for some reason these two, I would say if I had to pick my 2 favorite cows, those would be it. Those are my 2 favorites. They meant the most to me. And then losing them, it just really makes you want to throw in the towel, to be honest. While we weren't ready to give up, we went into the end of the year with a heaviness that had us discouraged. While he had made great improvements, Ryan was still struggling with speech and exhaustion, both side effects of his stroke. The farm had a heaviness about it too. We didn't have clear answers as to what had gone wrong with either of our losses. Thankfully, winter is a season of rest and reflection. We were grateful that Ryan had survived a stroke and heart surgery. Our farm had continued to grow, and our business was gaining momentum. We learned a lot this year from vets, mentors, and other farmers as we had run into more challenges than ever before. Year 2 was the year we chose not to give up, but year 3 would be the year that showed us we didn't have a choice. We needed this farm more than we knew. Stay tuned for part 3 coming soon. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, guys.